In every corner of the ancient world, across civilizations separated by oceans and millennia, one figure slithers silently through their myths, their scriptures, their carvings, and their sacred texts, the serpent. To some, it was a creature of deception and chaos. To others, it was the very embodiment of wisdom, power, and transformation. Why did cultures as diverse as the Egyptians, the Hindus, the Greeks, the Mayans, and the Norse all revere, or fear, the serpent as something more than flesh and scale? The serpent is perhaps the most paradoxical symbol in human history. It sheds its skin, seemingly reborn, whispering of immortality and transformation. It coils into spirals, reflecting infinity and the cyclical nature of life. It guards temples, treasures, and forbidden truths. And at times, it is seen as the great enemy, the deceiver who tempts humanity into downfall. But is this duality a misunderstanding? Or is it a deliberate veil hiding a deeper truth? When you look closely, the serpent begins to reveal itself not as a singular creature, but as a cosmic archetype. It is the force of life itself, dangerous yet divine, destructive yet renewing. The serpent is both poison and medicine, both chaos and order. And perhaps, hidden within this duality lies one of humanity's oldest secrets about the nature of consciousness and spiritual awakening. Tonight, we're going to peel back that veil. We'll journey into the heart of ancient mythologies to uncover what the serpent truly represents. We'll explore why it was carved into temple walls, why it coils around gods and sages, and why its image continues to haunt the subconscious of humanity even today. By the end of this exploration, you may come to see the serpent not as a creature crawling upon the earth, but as a mirror of your own hidden potential, your own shadow, and your own path to awakening. The question is, are you ready to face it? The serpent's presence is so widespread across human history that it cannot be dismissed as coincidence. Its image coils through temples, scriptures, and oral traditions, leaving behind a trail of enigmatic clues. To understand its meaning, we must step back into the sacred landscapes of the ancient world. In ancient Egypt, the serpent was both feared and revered. The great cobra goddess Wadjet was a protector of the pharaohs, her hooded form adorning crowns as a symbol of divine authority. Yet in the shadow of this protective serpent, there lurked Apep, the chaos serpent, locked in eternal battle with Ra, the sun god. Night after night, Ra's solar bark journeyed through the underworld, fending off Apep's coiling attacks to ensure the dawn would rise again. Here, the serpent was both the guardian of kingship and the enemy of light, a reminder that power and destruction are twin forces of creation. Travel eastward to India, and the serpent reveals another dimension. Known as Naga, these serpent beings were neither wholly good nor wholly evil, but intermediaries between the human and divine worlds. In yogic philosophy, the serpent manifests as kundalini, the coiled energy at the base of the spine. Through discipline and awakening, this energy rises upward, like a serpent uncoiling, bringing illumination and transcendence. What Egypt portrayed as cosmic battle, India saw as inner transformation, a war fought not in the sky, but within the human body and mind. The Greeks saw serpents as keepers of wisdom and hidden knowledge. The staff of Asclepius, entwined by a serpent, became a timeless emblem of healing, suggesting that wisdom, like venom, can both kill and cure. Yet serpents also appear as guardians of forbidden realms. The monstrous python slain by Apollo at Delphi, or the sleepless dragon Ladon, who guarded the golden apples of immortality in the Garden of the Hesperides. In Greek thought, the serpent stood at the threshold between mortals and the divine, challenging humanity to earn what it most desired. In the Mesoamerican world, the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl embodied a paradox of earth and sky, matter and spirit. With the body of a serpent and the plumage of a bird, he was the bridge between the physical and the celestial. To the Maya and Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl was a bringer of knowledge, the one who taught humanity agriculture, astronomy, and the calendar, tools that elevated mankind closer to the gods. Even in the Norse sagas, the serpent reigned supreme in the form of Jormungandr, the world serpent. Coiled around the earth, biting its own tail, it symbolized eternity and and the inescapable cycles of fate. Yet it was also a harbinger of Ragnarok, destined to rise and poison the skies in the twilight of the gods. Once again, we see the serpent as both preserver and destroyer, creation entwined with destruction. What unites all these depictions is a profound philosophical truth. The serpent is never one-dimensional. It is never simply evil, nor wholly good. Instead, it embodies the paradoxes of life itself. To the ancients, the serpent was a teacher in disguise, one that taught humanity about balance, cycles, and the hidden power lying dormant within. But why, then, has the serpent so often been vilified in later traditions? Why does it slither in the shadows of biblical texts as the deceiver, rather than the illuminator? Perhaps this is not a distortion, but part of the mystery itself, a deliberate concealment of truth, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who dare to look deeper. To understand the serpent is to recognize that it has never been confined to one culture, religion, or worldview. Its symbolism is archetypal. It emerges spontaneously across civilizations separated by oceans and centuries, suggesting that it is woven into the collective unconscious of humanity. The serpent is not just a creature of the earth. It is a mirror of the cosmos and a map of the inner human soul. The most recurring theme is rebirth and transformation. Unlike most animals, serpents shed their skin, leaving behind what once was, and emerging renewed. To ancient eyes, this was not mere biology. It was metaphysics made visible. The serpent demonstrated the possibility of death without finality, change without annihilation. It revealed that the old self could die, and a new self could emerge. This is why serpents so often accompany rituals of initiation, fertility rites, and sacred mysteries. They embody the eternal cycle of death, decay, and renewal. But renewal comes only through descent, and here the serpent takes on a darker face, the symbol of the shadow. Across cultures, serpents guard thresholds, be it Eden's fruit of knowledge, Delphi's oracle, or the golden apples of immortality. They do not grant access easily. Instead, they demand confrontation with fear, with temptation, with the unknown. In this way, the serpent becomes the custodian of shadow work long before psychology gave it a name. To confront the serpent is to confront the parts of oneself that remain hidden, suppressed, or feared. This is why serpents are so often placed in opposition to light-bringers and heroes. In Egyptian myth, Ra must descend into darkness each night to face Apep. In Greek myth, Apollo slays Python before claiming Delphi's oracle. In Norse myth, Thor is destined to face Jormungandr in the final battle. Yet in every case, the hero's confrontation with the serpent is not merely destruction, it is transformation. The serpent tests the hero, forcing them to prove their strength, wisdom, or worthiness. Without the serpent, the hero would never evolve. The serpent also embodies hidden knowledge and forbidden wisdom. In nearly every myth where a serpent appears, it does so in connection to secrets humanity was not meant to have. In Eden, it tempts humanity with the knowledge of good and evil. In Greece, Ladon guards the apples of immortality. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl gifts humanity with astronomy and agriculture, elevating them to a higher state. Why is the serpent always placed at the threshold of wisdom? Perhaps because wisdom is never safe. To know is to risk. To awaken is to suffer. The serpent, then, is both initiator and trickster, granting knowledge but never without consequence. And yet, the serpent is not only about fear, shadow, or temptation. It is also the symbol of energy and cosmic cycles. Many ancient cultures saw the serpent not crawling upon the ground, but coiling around the cosmos itself. The Norse envisioned Jormungandr encircling the world. The Greeks spoke of ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, symbolizing eternity and endless return. In Hindu philosophy, kundalini energy is described as a coiled serpent resting at the base of the spine, waiting to rise and connect the individual to cosmic consciousness. In each of these traditions, the serpent represents something primal, cyclical, and infinite, an energy that transcends life and death. This duality, destroyer and healer, deceiver and illuminator, shadow and light, reveals why the serpent is such a profound archetype. It does not offer simple answers. It embodies paradox. To the awakened mind, this paradox is not a contradiction but a teaching. Life itself is paradoxical. Creation and destruction are not enemies but partners. Knowledge and danger cannot be separated. Transformation requires death of the old self. The serpent teaches us that wholeness is not about choosing light over darkness, but about embracing both. Thus, the serpent becomes more than an image in myth. It becomes a spiritual map. When it appears in ancient stories, it is a call to initiation. It is the threshold that must be crossed, the trial that must be endured, the wisdom that must be integrated. In this sense, every serpent in mythology is not only a character, it is a mirror of you. It asks, are you ready to shed your skin, confront your shadow, and awaken the power coiled within? But to truly unveil the serpent's role in ancient mythology, we must go deeper, beyond the surface myths, beyond the duality of good and evil. The serpent, after all, is not just a figure of worship or fear. It is a paradox incarnate. It embodies both the destroyer and the redeemer, the deceiver and the enlightener. Consider, for instance, the serpent in the Hebrew tradition. In Genesis, the serpent tempts Eve with the fruit of the tree of knowledge. For centuries, this story has been interpreted as a tale of sin and downfall, the serpent cast as an enemy of God. Yet, if we look deeper, a more provocative question arises. Did the serpent truly deceive, or did it liberate? After all, knowledge opened Adam and Eve's eyes. Pain and suffering entered the world, yes, but so too did self-awareness, choice, and the spark of human destiny. Without the serpent, humanity would have remained in ignorance, innocent but blind. This duality echoes in countless traditions. In Hindu mythology, we encounter Shisha, the great cosmic serpent upon whom Lord Vishnu reclines. Shisha is both infinite and timeless, a symbol of stability, yet also capable of unraveling creation itself. The serpent here is not wicked, it is cosmic order and dissolution, holding the universe together while reminding us of its impermanence. In Norse tradition, Jormungandr, the world serpent, coils itself around Midgard. It is both protector and threat, embodying the cycle of creation and destruction. When it rises at Ragnarok, the end of the world begins. But in ending, a new cycle is born, a world reborn from ashes. Again, the serpent represents both annihilation and renewal. Even in ancient Mesoamerican traditions, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, was worshipped as the god of wisdom, wind, and creation. Unlike the sinister depictions found in some cultures, this serpent was revered as a bringer of light, a divine teacher who descended to guide humanity. And yet, even Quetzalcoatl was said to bring destruction, for no teacher comes without shattering illusions. Here, the serpent reveals its hidden truth. It is the symbol of transformation, the force that strips away the false so that the real may emerge. It is feared because it brings endings. It is worshipped because those endings lead to beginnings. This paradox is precisely why the serpent has always been shrouded in mystery. To the uninitiated, it appears as danger, chaos, temptation. But to those who understand, those who awaken, the serpent is a guide, a whisperer of truths too powerful to be spoken plainly. Perhaps this is why ancient mystery schools guarded serpent knowledge so fiercely. To hand such a symbol to the unready would be like giving fire to a child, light for some, destruction for others. In truth, the serpent has never been about good or evil. It is about power, transformation, and the eternal cycle of death and rebirth. And this is where we begin to see the hidden reason the serpent recurs in every tradition. It is the mirror of human potential. Just as a snake sheds its skin, we too must shed illusions, fears, and false identities if we are to awaken. The serpent, then, is not just myth, it is initiation. It appears when the seeker is ready to confront both shadow and light, to leave behind the comfort of ignorance, and to embrace the terrifying freedom of knowledge. The serpent is not only a figure of ancient myths, but a living archetype that speaks directly to our inner world. To encounter the serpent in spiritual awakening is to encounter the raw truth about transformation. It is never gentle, never without struggle, yet always necessary. Think of how a snake sheds its skin. The process is not optional, it is survival. The old layer becomes too tight, suffocating, and painful. The serpent must rub against sharp surfaces, endure friction, and strip itself bare before emerging renewed. In much the same way, when we undergo shadow work or a spiritual awakening, we are forced to shed our old patterns, identities, and illusions. It is not comfortable. It scrapes at us, exposes us, even frightens us, but without it, growth is impossible. To embody the serpent's wisdom is to understand that transformation is not a single event, but a continual process. Every ending in your life, the loss of a relationship, the collapse of a belief, the breaking of a dream, is a shedding. At first it feels like death, but only later do we see it as rebirth. The serpent teaches that to fear endings is to fear evolution itself. On a psychological level, the serpent also points us toward our shadow, the repressed parts of the self that we hide or deny. Just as the serpent lurks in hidden places, so too does our shadow dwell in the subconscious. When it emerges, it can be frightening, even monstrous. But this confrontation is sacred. By facing the shadow, our anger, our jealousy, our wounds, we reclaim the energy we once buried. We integrate the darkness, and in doing so, discover a deeper wholeness. The serpent also embodies cycles. In alchemy, it appears as the ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, symbolizing infinity, wholeness, and the eternal return. Life is not linear, but circular. We return again and again to lessons, each time at a higher level of understanding. Embracing this truth frees us from the illusion that growth is a straight line. Instead, it is a spiral, ever ascending, even when it feels like we are revisiting old wounds. In your own spiritual path, the serpent invites you to stop resisting change. When fear rises, ask yourself, is this the skin I must shed? When chaos comes, ask, is this destruction clearing the way for rebirth? When shadow confronts you, ask, what truth is this serpent guarding that I must claim? By walking with the serpent, you learn to see endings not as punishments, but as passages. You learn to face the shadow not as an enemy, but as a teacher. And most of all, you awaken to the truth that the very thing you fear is often the key to your liberation. The serpent's wisdom whispers this: do not run from transformation. Do not cling to what must die. Do not fear the shadow. For every descent is the beginning of an ascent, and every shedding is the birth of your truest self. The serpent has always been feared because it represents what we cannot control: death, shadow, endings, transformation. Yet in truth, it is one of the greatest guides on the spiritual path. It shows us that awakening is not a matter of running into the light and escaping darkness. It is about holding both light and dark, life and death, fear and wisdom, within the same embrace. Every serpent you encounter in myth, in dream, or in meditation is a mirror of your own journey. It reminds you that the parts of yourself you are most afraid to face, the wounds you bury, the truths you deny, the endings you resist, are the very gateways to your freedom. Spiritual awakening is not a flight into the heavens. It is a descent into the underworld, a shedding of old skins, a confrontation with shadow. And only when we walk through that darkness with courage do we emerge into light that is not fragile, but eternal. The serpent invites you now to ask yourself, what must I shed? What shadow waits for me to face it? What rebirth is calling me through the doorway of loss? If you carry this question with you, the serpent will no longer appear as a symbol of fear, but of liberation. And when you finally surrender to its wisdom, you will realize that the serpent has never been outside of you. It has always been coiled within, waiting for you to awaken.